What is up? It is December 18th. We are back in Wisconsin, third time this year. And I got 2 more doe tags. We're gonna see if we can fill them here. Just a short 3-day camping trip. Truck's all locked and loaded, ready to go. As you can see from my breath, pretty cold out. Gonna be in the 20s and the teens this trip. We actually have a big snowstorm coming in tomorrow. Gonna snow like 4 to 5 inches. Hopefully that gets them fired up. I actually shot a doe last night in Minnesota. Nice big doe. That's my 3rd deer of the season. If I can fill at least one of these tags, 2 would be nice. That's 4 or 5 deer for the season, and that will last me the whole year. Yes, I eat a lot of meat. I don't buy red meat from the store because I can just shoot deer and it's much healthier and I feel much better eating it. I'm just making a quick little stir fry here. Just got into town. It's about 2 o'clock now. I'd like to be in the tree by 3:30, which I will be. I'm not going deep in. There's a little spot here that I hunted 2 years ago right off the road that was really good late season, right around this time, a little earlier, but right around the same time, that just had does pushed up in it. I think from all the gun seasons the past few weeks have just pushed them into this little area that doesn't seem to get hunted very much. So I'm gonna eat and then get out in the tree. Okay, I'll set up for the evening. Only an hour and a half to sit. Not too far away from the road just because I don't have a lot of time tonight. But I saw a lot of deer 2 years ago in this little area here where I hunt, where I'm hunting. There's a ridge, big ridge up to my left. Behind me is a little creek. In front of me is a bunch of brush that they come in and feed on, and they actually bed in the brush because it's really thick. Off to my left, about 100, 150 yards before the ridge starts. They could come from any direction, except most likely straight behind me, where my wind is blowing to, so. Snowstorm coming in tomorrow morning. Hopefully we get good movement here in the last 30 minutes. That's probably when I'll see some movement. All right, all packed up, back in the truck now. Ended up seeing 6 deer. 4 came in off about 60 yards from me. 3 fawns and 1 nice sized doe. They kind of worked past me and the doe got to 40 yards. I was waiting for a long time for her to get a shot and they started working off the other way, but the doe came the closest and she looked like she was right at 40 yards from where I was ranging her. She finally stepped out and gave me a good shot from there. I've never shot 40 yards before, but just based on the situation, perfectly broadside, she wasn't on edge at all. I decided to try and take it. I would practice out to 50 all the time, so I felt pretty confident, and it went just underneath her, shaved a little bit of hair off her stomach area. It was online, lined up good with the vitals, just shot a little low, and then I ended up going over and ranging it after, and it was just a little bit past. It was about 43, 44 yards, so just ended up going a little bit low, but that's okay. They weren't too spooked. They kind of milled around further off after that, and then I saw another deer, another doe off in the distance about 100 yards feeding, and then I had another doe come work by from the opposite direction. The rest came at about 70 yards, 60, 70 yards, right at last light. And then I packed up, got in the truck now, gonna just chill for a little bit because it's still early, just past 6. And then I'm gonna make some food and go to bed, get up early. It should be snowing in the morning when I wake up, and it's supposed to snow all day. So I'm hoping that keeps them moving longer in the morning than they normally would, and maybe further into the day. Who knows? But we'll see in the morning. Okay, this morning's hunt produced nothing, no movement. Didn't see any deer. Saw a fox, that was pretty cool. Bunch of squirrels. It snowed quite a bit, as you can see. Got out of the tree, ran a couple of errands. Now it's 11:45 and didn't have much to do before I go to the spot I want to hunt tonight. So I decided I'm gonna shoot over and do something I never really have before, or I have but never gone to a place and intentionally done that. And I'm gonna still hunt through this bedding area that I scouted my first trip to Wisconsin this year. There's a bunch of trail cams back there. There's a few tree stands. So I think it gets hunted pretty hard, especially during the rut. But there was a bunch of does back in the bedding when I was back there. And now it's late season. I don't think people have been out for a while. And the wind sets up perfectly for me to just go back there and just move really slowly through there and see if I can either see one bedded or if I can see one that's up on their feet just after the snow stopped. The snow has now stopped. It was snowing really hard when I was in the stand, but maybe they're up and moving a little bit back there in the bedding and I can sneak up on one. That's gonna be pretty tough, but I'm gonna try it and maybe have a little fun here. Otherwise, I'll be back in the stand later tonight. All set up for the evening now. Still hunting that bedding area. Went pretty well. I saw about 20 turkeys. Was trying to sneak around them. That was tough. Then I saw 2 does, or a doe and a fawn, that were, I thought I was gonna get a shot at them. They were working about 60 yards just off my wind, and they looked like they were gonna work by, but there was no way for them to work by without going into my wind, and they did. And they stopped, stood there for a while, then turned around and trotted off. But there was a good amount of deer tracks out there since the snow stopped, which was like only an hour or 2 before I was in there. Honestly, I should probably be hunting back there tonight, but with how much time I had left, I had to hike all the way out, get my stuff, and get set up. I just wasn't gonna have very much time, and they were starting to move by the tracks and saw the deer right at the end, and the wind was blowing right into the biggest mass of bedding. So I just didn't feel good about it. In the area I hunted last night, bunch of bedding out in front of me, wind blowing this way. I was back behind me last night, about 200, 300 yards. All the deer came right by this area. There's a lot of food in here, a lot of this little like raspberry, strawberry bush stuff, whatever it is that they come in and they feed on pretty heavy, I've noticed, especially late in the year. Hopefully we get some action. Well, just smoked one. 30-yard shot. Hit her good. She ran, I don't know, looked like 40 yards and just keeled over. Let's go. I first saw her way out there, about 100 yards. She worked through this stuff really slow into here, and then she came down right here at like 15 yards. But as you can see, all this stuff was in the way. I tried to draw like twice. Yeah, I tried to draw twice because I was gonna shoot her right through this opening here. She got to right there. But it's so quiet that the creak of just starting to pull it made her stop and stare at me. But she can't see me through these fir branches. Then she took another step. I tried again, same thing. Stared at me. And then she kind of worked off. I couldn't tell if she didn't know what I was, but I think she didn't know. She thought something was up. She worked off over there. And then she came out right there. You probably can't see my lighted knock, but it's right there. At 30 yards, crushed her. She piled up over there. Wind's blowing this way. Bedding all out over there in the thick stuff. Okay. Here we go. Looks good. And we know it was good because it's dead. Okay, we're gonna follow this thing before my phone dies. My favorite tracking is in the snow. Easy to see this exactly where she went. Of course, they always go into this crap. It's pretty good. Okay. There's like no blood on the ground, but it's all over the plants and trees. And there she is. Not a giant doe, but also not a tiny little fawn, so we'll take it. Back at the truck now. Got that thing all packed out, cut up, and everything out. So, good day of hunting. Nothing in the morning, but still hunting was cool. Cool to see some deer, and then obviously have one deer come through and shoot it. I ended up seeing one more deer way off in the distance, about 100 yards. That's not too far, but through a bunch of thick stuff. It's actually in the exact same spot I saw this deer at first. So yeah, got one deer. We got one more tag. We got tomorrow and then Saturday morning. If we can get another one, that would be great, but I'm gonna get loaded up in the truck here. Can't see much, it's dark, but yeah, gonna get to bed and sleep in a little bit tomorrow, and then I think go out mid-morning to that bedding area and still hunt around and maybe hop up in a tree. We'll see. Going into the bedding area, I still hunted around in last night. There's a ton of does in here. I know that just from the amount of tracks I saw after the fresh snow. Within 2 hours of it stopping snowing, there were a bunch of fresh tracks in there. I saw those 2 does. There was a bunch of turkeys in there. There's just a lot of life in here. So this is where I want to be for the last sit. This is a hard place to get into without being busted. Where I'm going to be is basically a big sea of bedding. Big sea like this. I'm going to be down at the bottom of the sea inside it here. It's going to be a northwest wind. So some of my scent is going to be blowing into a portion of the bedding, but the majority of it is going to be clear. And I'm hoping I'm going to get movement out to me. I've hiked like a mile so far and just taking a break. Getting into this is very important. I went along this river. You see this river here? And eventually it hits the first part of the bedding, which is super thick. And I have to weave my way through there. It took me a long time. And it's a little noisy, but it's up against this river. And it's on the very edge of the bedding. So I got through there. It's still like 300 yards away from where I'm going to be hunting. I'm going to follow a little old dry creek bed, little gully that I know of, and I can follow it on my mapping with the LiDAR. I'm going to follow that right in. So I'm going to be lower, nice and quiet. I'm going to go really slow. Then I'm going to jump up out of there and set up in a tree and hope that I'm going to get some movement. I'm very confident I'm going to see quite a few deer. It's just going to be if they come by. So doing the intro here just because it's so quiet. It's super quiet in here. I just need to be really quiet, get in the tree and just wait and not make any sound. Whew. Just got back to the truck about the mile walk that I had back. Starting to get a little frozen beer. It's getting pretty cold out, but I ended up seeing about 20 deer. They moved really well. Saw a lot of deer. It was a great hunt. Great night to be out there. Only had one within bow range at one point it was like 12 yards away, but it was a fawn and it was just like right below me, head on. I was kind of in the open there and it was really hard to move around and not get busted. I had a deer come through earlier and it actually busted me before it even got within like 50 yards. Just I moved a little bit and it saw me. I actually had 2 deer come in while I was pulling my bow up. One was a nice doe with a fawn, and so I was trying to get my release out, get the bow up, turned around and they were gone. I think they probably saw me move and took off. I never heard them run or blow or anything. And yeah, I ended up seeing 20 deer, only one in bow range. I was in a good spot, but I was once again just off the spot I needed to be at. They all came out of exactly where I thought they were going to come out of. They just took a different angle out of that bedding area than I was expecting them to. Gonna camp out tonight, and then in the morning I'm actually gonna go do some bow drives with some friends and just have some fun. So I'm not gonna film any of that, but then this upcoming week I'm going to camp out a little bit and hunt my last few hunts in Minnesota. Got one more tag. And yeah, so the rest of this video will be up in Minnesota. Okay, December 22nd. Bow drives in Wisconsin yesterday morning was a lot of fun. Saw a decent amount of deer. Got close to having a shot, but I didn't get any shots off. One of my buddies shot a coyote though, so that was pretty cool. Now back in Minnesota, these are gonna be my last 3 days of the 2024 season to hunt. I'm in one of my favorite spots. Big ridge behind me, big ridge in front of me. There's a bunch of like pond, swampy areas all between these ridges, and these ridges run for miles. And there's a bunch of little areas like this behind me that connect the two ridges. And the deer just travel straight on through these. They come really fast through. They don't really stop and meander around, so I gotta be paying attention. But this is a good spot, especially late season like this. I've hunted this early season and during the rut and seen very few deer, like pretty much no deer. But when I hunt this in December, I see deer almost every set. They come through last 15 minutes of legal light and they travel up over the ridges, and there's a bunch of crop fields and stuff over there. So I think they bed up behind me. There's a bunch of private land, and then they come up onto this ridge and go over the top. One tag left in Minnesota, so it would be nice to fill it, but if not, it'll be nice to just be out here. It's supposed to be not too frigid the next 2 days. Well, nothing tonight. No movement. Real quiet night, but we'll be back at it tomorrow night. Gonna hit the same spot the next 2 nights because it's a travel way. They could travel through at any moment, any night. You never know. Okay, December 23rd. I was gonna hunt tomorrow also, but I'm calling it after tonight. So tonight is my last hunt of the 2024 season. It's been an awesome season. It's had its struggles, especially in Minnesota. Minnesota's sucked for me this year, but it has had its moments. Wisconsin was awesome. Thank you to everyone who has watched the videos. It's been fun making them, and I plan on making them again next year. Just these hunting, camping trips that I love doing. There will be more fishing stuff out this winter, if that interests anyone. The same place I was last night, between two ridges. Just this saddle travel way that goes between these two ridges with these ponds. You can see the pond swamp behind me. There's more that way. Travel way that they come out last 15 minutes. So hopefully we get some here this last sit of the season. But if not, that's okay too. Just nice to be out one last time. And that is it for the 2024 season. Didn't see anything tonight, but that's okay. Had a great season, and thanks for watching.